I am going to tell you a dangerous secret, a truth that, once understood, will reinterpret every moment of quiet comfort you have ever felt in the arms of another. The peace you crave in a relationship, that gentle sunlit harbor of no conflict, of shared goals and easy compromises, that is not peace. That is the administrative quiet of an occupied territory. You believe you are seeking harmony, a noble goal, but you do not understand the nature of the war you are in. It is a quiet war, a war of position, of psychological territory, fought not with swords and shouts, but with sighs, with silences, with the devastatingly effective language of hurt feelings. And in this war, the peace offered by the other side is almost always a beautifully packaged surrender document. Its terms are simple. You will have peace, you will have affection, you will have quiet, but only when you have laid down your arms, dismantled your own fortifications, and agreed to live under the jurisdiction of her emotional law. Machiavelli, that clear-eyed cartographer of the soul's dark territories, would recognize this instantly. He knew that for a prince, a peace treaty offered by a stronger power is rarely a gesture of goodwill. It is a strategic pause, a tactic to disarm an opponent, to lull them into a state of comfortable complacency before the final, administrative annexation of their lands. To accept peace on an enemy's terms is not to end the war, it is to have lost it. Think of your own life. Think of the peace you currently enjoy. What is its price? Does it require you to manage your moods so as not to disturb her? Does it require you to quietly abandon the hobbies, the ambitions, the friendships that she deems disruptive? Does it require you to walk on the eggshells of her emotional sensitivities, to constantly edit your own thoughts and desires before they are spoken, to ensure they align with the prevailing climate of the relationship? This is not peace. This is the life of a vassal, a well-treated and perhaps even beloved subject who has forgotten that he was born to be a king in his own right. There is a grim folktale from the conquered lands of the Saxon kings after the Norman invasion. The new Norman lord, a man of great cunning, did not rule the resentful Saxons with an iron fist. He offered them a beautiful peace. He adopted some of their customs, he praised their heritage, he offered them security from outside threats. The only condition was that the Saxons had to dismantle their own ancient fortified halls and live in the new, open, undefended villages he had designed for them. Many, weary of war, agreed. They enjoyed the peace, the comfort, but they had traded their sovereignty for it. They were no longer a proud, independent people capable of defending themselves. They were a protected, managed, and ultimately a neutered population entirely dependent on the goodwill of their conqueror. The peace was the cage. Your desire for a peaceful, conflict-free relationship makes you a willing Saxon. You will dismantle the fortress of your own soul, your difficult opinions, your inconvenient passions, your unshakable principles, in exchange for the comfort of her approval. You call this compromise. She, on a deep instinctual level that she may not even be conscious of, understands it is a successful conquest. The modern language of therapy has become the perfect vehicle for this quiet invasion. A man's need for solitude is not a sovereign right. It is reframed as avoidant attachment, a problem to be solved for the health of the relationship. His singular focus on his own mission is not a sign of his power. It is emotional neglect. His refusal to be drawn into endless, circular conversations about feelings is not a sign of his masculine preference for action. It is a sign he is closed off or repressed. The entire lexicon is designed to pathologize the very qualities of sovereignty that would allow him to exist as an equal power rather than as a subject. The faint, almost imperceptible hope in this occupied territory is the sudden, sharp, and inexplicable feeling of claustrophobia. It is the moment, in the middle of a perfectly peaceful and loving evening, that you feel a desperate, screaming urge to be alone, to be somewhere else, to breathe a different air. That is not a sign of your own dysfunction. That is the ghost of your conquered king, rattling the bars of his comfortable prison. It is your soul remembering the cold, clean, and dangerous air of its own lost sovereignty. So, I ask you, you who are so proud of your peaceful, stable relationship, Go to the quietest room in your house, stand in the center of it, and listen. Can you hear the silence of a truce between equals? Or can you hear the profound, orderly, and soul-crushing quiet of a land that has already been conquered? The chains that bind you are not forged from her anger, but from the exquisite, unbearable weight of her disappointment. So, you have recognized the quiet of your life for what it is, the orderly silence of a conquered province. But you are a modern, reasonable man. You tell yourself, this cannot be a conquest. There has been no violence, there have been no shouts, no ultimatums, no overt displays of force. You are looking for the weapons of an old-fashioned war. You do not understand that the arsenals of this new, gentle war are located in the heart, and its ammunition is made of tears. The second and most critical truth you must understand is this. The control over your surrender is maintained not by threats, but by the masterful deployment of her emotional state as a weapon system. Your compliance is secured not by what she will do to you, but by what you will be forced to feel about yourself. Machiavelli, in his time, spoke of the necessity of arms and laws, but in the quiet domestic warfare of the soul, the arms are different. The primary weapons in her arsenal are guilt, disappointment, and her own strategic, and often genuine, unhappiness. These are the weapons of soft power, and they are more effective than any standing army. Consider the landscape of your peace. It is a beautiful, ornate garden, but the flowers in this garden are poisonous. There is the andure-sceptered lily of disappointment. When you make a decision that prioritizes your own mission over her immediate comfort, she does not yell. She simply presents you with this flower. Her face falls. A quiet sigh escapes her lips. She says, "No, it's fine. I understand. You have to do what you have to do." And the sweet, sickly scent of this flower fills the air, and you are overcome with the feeling that you are a selfish, brutish, and unloving man. To escape this feeling, you will concede almost anything. Next to it grows the night-blooming orchid of her tears. This is a weapon of immense, almost nuclear power. It is deployed in moments of true conflict, when you are standing firm on a non-negotiable principle. The logic of your position may be unassailable, your cause may be just, but then, a single perfect tear traces a path down her cheek. And in that moment, the entire context shifts. The argument is no longer about the issue at hand. It is now about the fact that you have made her cry. You are now the villain, the brute, the monster who has wounded this delicate creature. The world and your own conscience rushes to condemn you. To continue to hold your position is to be a cruel man. To surrender is to be a compassionate one. In the decadent final years of the Western Roman Empire, they told stories of the Empress Galla Placidia. She was a woman of immense political cunning who ruled through a performance of exquisite fragility. When the powerful warlike generals would propose a campaign she disliked, she would not argue strategy. She would simply grow pale, her hand would flutter to her heart, and she would speak of a terrible, foreboding dream she'd had, of the sorrow she felt for the wives of the soldiers. The generals, who could face a Gothic horde without flinching, were utterly disarmed by this display. To proceed with their plans would be to appear as brutes who were terrorizing the delicate empress. Their power was neutralized by her performance of weakness. This is the tyranny of the fragile. You are a man, conditioned for generations to be a protector, a provider, a solver of problems. Your entire psychological apparatus is designed to respond to female distress as a call to action. And this, your noblest instinct, has been turned into your most profound vulnerability. You are a powerful warrior, being held hostage by the tears of a single, beautiful maiden. The strange, cold hope in this toxic garden is to begin the slow, painful process of building an immunity to these poisons. It is not to become a callous monster. It is to become a physician of the soul, one who can distinguish between genuine pain and a strategic symptom. It requires you to develop a will of iron, the ability to see a tear and to say, with a calm and quiet voice, "I see that you are upset, but my decision stands." It requires you to withstand the scent of the lily of disappointment. and to know that your worth is not defined by her immediate emotional state. This will feel, at first, like an act of profound cruelty. You have been trained to see your own sovereignty as a form of violence against her feelings. You must unlearn this. You must understand that your first duty as a king is not to the comfort of your subjects, but to the integrity of your kingdom. So I ask you, with the cold precision of a battlefield surgeon, look at the last compromise you made, the last time you surrendered a piece of your own territory for the sake of peace. What weapon was pointed at your heart? Was it the flash of an angry sword? Or was it the quiet, devastating, and infinitely more effective glitter of a single well-timed tear? In the quiet kingdom of her control, your first act of freedom will be framed as an act of war. Imagine a perfectly manicured garden. Every flower is in its place. Every path is swept. The hedges are trimmed into pleasing geometric shapes. It is a masterpiece of order, of tranquility, of peace. Then one day, from the deep, untamed earth beneath, a single wild, magnificent oak tree begins to grow. It is not an evil thing. It is a thing of life and power. But the gardener does not see its beauty. He sees only the disruption. He sees the way its roots crack his perfect pathways, the way its shadow starves his delicate, sun-hungry flowers. He sees its wild, chaotic, unplanned existence as a monstrous rebellion against the gentle peace of his creation. You are that oak tree, and your first, tentative reach for the sun, for your own authentic life, will be treated as an act of high treason. This is the third and most brutal truth you must face. Once you have accepted the peace of a negotiated surrender, any attempt to reclaim your own sovereignty will not be seen as a healthy act of self-actualization. It will be framed as a cruel and selfish act of aggression. The war is not over when you surrender. The war truly begins when you try to escape. You decide you want to reclaim a piece of your old kingdom. You want to spend one night a week with your own friends. You want to dedicate your weekends to that difficult, lonely project you abandoned. You want the simple, sovereign right to your own private thoughts, to a space in your own mind that is not subject to her audit. These are not unreasonable desires. They are the fundamental rights of a free man. But you are no longer a free man. You are a subject in the quiet, orderly province of her emotional state. And your desire for a life of your own is a rebellion. How will this rebellion be met? Not with armies, not with open declarations of war. It will be met with the same gentle, effective weapons we have spoken of, but now they will be deployed with a new and desperate intensity. The lily of disappointment will bloom in every room. The orchid of her tears will be a constant, vigilant presence. You will be accused, not of wanting your own life, but of destroying hers. I don't understand what's changed, she will say, her voice a perfect instrument of wounded confusion. I thought you were happy. We were so happy. Notice the language. Your personal happiness is irrelevant. The only unit of measure is the happiness of the collective we, a state of being of which she is the sole arbiter. Your desire for solitude is not a need. It is a rejection of her. Your ambition is not a virtue. It is a threat to the relationship. In the twisted logic of this gentle tyranny, your freedom and her security are presented as a zero-sum game. For you to gain an inch of your own territory, she must lose an inch of her peace. You are made to feel like a monster, a vandal, a thoughtless brute, for the simple, natural, and beautiful act of trying to grow. There is a dark myth from the claustrophobic city of Venice about a man who was married to a lamia, a creature of serpentine beauty who loved him with a suffocating, possessive passion. She gave him a beautiful house on the Grand Canal, filled with every luxury. His only duty was to be with her, to be the object of her adoration. But he began to feel a deep, gnawing unhappiness. He missed the sea. He missed the feeling of being a man in the world. One day he bought a small, simple fishing boat. He did not plan to leave her. He just wanted to feel the salt spray on his face for an hour. When the lamia saw the boat, she did not rage. She began to weep. And her tears were not water, but a corrosive acid that began to dissolve the beautiful marble floors of their home. "You see what your selfishness does?" she whispered, as the foundations of their life melted around them. Your desire for the sea is destroying our home. And he was so racked with guilt that he burned the boat and never left the house again. Your attempts at freedom will be framed as that boat. Your personal quest is a threat to the foundations of the home. The stark, terrifying hope in this dynamic is to embrace the role of the traitor. It is the moment you look at the weeping lamia and the dissolving marble and realize that any home whose foundations are so fragile they can be destroyed by a single fishing boat is not a home. It is a prison made of sugar glass. You must be willing to let it dissolve. You must be willing to be the villain in her story in order to become the hero of your own. This requires a courage that few men possess. It is the courage to be seen as the bad guy, to withstand the accusations of selfishness, to hold firm to your own sovereign right to exist, even as she weeps and the world she has built for you crumbles. So I ask you this, you who are contemplating a small act of personal freedom, when you reach for the door and you hear her begin to cry and you feel the familiar, crushing weight of your own guilt, what is it that is truly under attack? Is it her heart, or is it her control over your surrender? True peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the unshakable confidence in your ability to win it. Imagine two kingdoms, nestled in a valley surrounded by restless, warlike neighbors. The first kingdom, Lyra, pursues a policy of perfect peace. It has no army. Its walls are low and decorated with flowers. It sends emissaries to its neighbors, offering gifts, signing treaties, and appealing to their better nature. The king of Lyra spends his days in a state of constant, low-grade anxiety, his peace a fragile thing, utterly dependent on the mercy and goodwill of others. The second kingdom, Scylla, is a fortress. Its walls are a league thick, made of black, impenetrable basalt. It does not seek war, but every citizen is trained in the art of it. Its granaries are always full, its forges are never cold. The king of Scylla does not send emissaries. His walls are his emissaries. His army is his treaty. He knows a profound, deep, and unshakable peace, not because conflict is absent, but because the outcome of any potential conflict is already decided. No one is foolish enough to attack him. You have been taught to be the king of Lyra. You must learn to become the king of Scylla. This is the fourth and most critical truth of this war. The peace you have been seeking, the peace of no conflict, is the peace of a disarmed and vulnerable state. It is a peace that is granted, and it can be taken away at any moment. True peace, the only kind worth having, is not granted. It is built. It is the peace of the well-armed man. Machiavelli was, above all things, a realist. He knew that the world was a dangerous place. His foundational argument for any state, the bedrock upon which all else is built, is that a kingdom must have good laws and good arms. And, he adds, good laws cannot exist without good arms. You cannot have justice or stability or prosperity if you cannot defend yourself. Your personal sovereignty is your kingdom. Your principles are your laws. And your inner strength, your unshakable frame, your capacity for decisive action, these are your arms. Without these arms, the beautiful laws you have for your own life are just a collection of pleasant suggestions. The man who has surrendered seeks a peace that is defined by the absence of her displeasure. He tiptoes through his own life, his highest goal being the avoidance of conflict. The sovereign man, the Machiavellian man, seeks a peace that is defined by the presence of his own strength. It is the quiet, humming confidence of a powerful machine at idle. He does not seek out conflict, but he does not fear it. His emotional and psychological house is in such perfect order that a storm in one room does not threaten the foundations of the entire structure. Consider the silence of a library. It is a beautiful but fragile thing. It is dependent on the cooperation of everyone inside. A single loudmouth can shatter it. This is the peace of the surrendered man. Now, consider the silence of a deep forest after a heavy snowfall. It is a silence of immense weight and power. The crash of a falling branch does not break the silence. The silence simply absorbs the sound and becomes still again. This is the peace of the armed man. You must stop trying to be the librarian of your own quiet life. and start becoming the forest. The modern world, with its therapeutic emphasis on co-regulation and dependency, has made men forget how to be the forest. It has taught them to be the anxious librarian, constantly shushing their own inner lives to appease the other readers. The radical liberating truth is that your peace is your own responsibility. It is not her job to make you feel secure. It is your job to build a fortress of self, within which you are unassailably secure, regardless of the weather outside. This is the Stoic's inner citadel, given a Machiavellian purpose. You build it not just to endure the world, but to command your place within it. You build it with the hard, lonely work of self-discipline. You build it by cultivating your own purpose, by managing your own finances, by strengthening your own body, by curating your own thoughts. You build it until you become a self-sufficient state, a hard target, an island of profound and unshakable order in the chaos of the world. The deep, life-altering hope in this is that you finally escape the exhausting, soul-crushing job of being her emotional caretaker. You are no longer responsible for her happiness. You are responsible for your own strength. And in a final, beautiful paradox, your strength becomes the greatest gift you can ever offer her. You become her fortress. You become the quiet, unshakable peace she was trying to force you into surrendering, but now it is a peace that is on your own terms. So I ask you this, you who have worked so hard to keep the peace in your house, look at the foundations of your own soul. Are you the king of a beautiful but defenseless open city, living in constant, quiet fear of the barbarians at the gate? Or are you the master of a silent, formidable fortress that no one would ever dare to attack? The only way to truly win is to build a kingdom so magnificent that the old battlefield is no longer on your map. And so you have built your fortress. You have learned the grim art of the well-armed state. Your walls are high, your granaries are full, and your mind is a disciplined army, ready for any conflict. You have achieved the peace of the man who cannot be easily conquered. You have won the war for your own territory. And now I will tell you the final and most liberating truth. The ultimate victory is not to win the war, but to forget it was ever being fought. All the strategies we have spoken of, the study of her emotional weapons, the rebellion against her control, the building of your own defenses, were necessary. They were the brutal, ugly, and essential tactics of a newly independent state securing its borders. But a king who spends his entire life staring at his borders is a king who will never enjoy his own kingdom. The final stage of your liberation is to turn your gaze away from the battlefield and inward, toward the cultivation of your own sovereign world, until the petty skirmishes at the gates cease to be of any interest to you at all. You have been at war for so long, you have forgotten that there is anything else. But the purpose of winning your freedom is not to be a soldier forever. It is to finally earn the right to be a poet, a philosopher, a creator. The man who has truly mastered this dark art achieves a new kind of peace. It is not the fragile peace of her surrender, nor is it the tense, vigilant peace of the armed state waiting for an attack. It is a third and final peace, the profound, creative, and utterly indifferent peace of the king, who is too busy building his own cathedral to notice the barbarians arguing outside the city walls. There is a final quiet myth from the Stoic philosophers of Rome. They spoke of a man who was cursed by a minor, spiteful god to be followed for the rest of his life by a personal storm cloud. The cloud would constantly rain down a miserable, chilling drizzle and whisper insults and doubts into his ear. For the first part of his life, the man was a victim. He railed against the injustice of the cloud. For the second part, he became a warrior. He built elaborate shelters, he wore oiled cloaks, he shouted back at the cloud's taunts. He spent his life in a state of constant, exhausting conflict, but in his old age, he achieved a new wisdom. He simply accepted the cloud. He learned to meditate in the drizzle. He learned to find the quiet spaces between the whispered insults. He became so absorbed in his own inner world, in the study of his own thoughts and the beauty of the world beyond the rain, that the storm became boring. It was just background noise. The god, deprived of the man's emotional reaction, which was its only nourishment, simply dissolved. The man did not defeat his curse. He he made it irrelevant. Her need for control, her emotional storms, her tests, that is your storm cloud. You can spend your life as a victim, or you can spend your life as a warrior. But the final liberation is to become the man who is so engaged in the magnificent project of his own life that the storm simply ceases to matter. This is the ultimate state of being. Your peace is no longer contingent on her behavior. It is not contingent on your ability to defend yourself from her behavior. It is a self-generating internal state, born from your devotion to your own mission. You can be in the same room with her chaos, and it does not touch the deep, quiet stillness of your own well-ordered soul. The strange, magnificent hope in this final stage is that it allows for a new and truly authentic form of connection. You can now engage with her not as a strategist, not as a defender, but as a genuinely free man. You can love her, but it is the calm, detached, and unconditional love of the mountain for the flower that grows on its slope. It is beautiful, it is cherished, but it is not necessary for the mountain's existence. Your love, finally, is a gift given from a place of absolute abundance, not a contract negotiated from a place of need. So, I leave you here, in the quiet of your own, newly won kingdom. You have fought the war. You have secured your borders. The choice is no longer about how to fight. The choice is about what you will now build. Will you spend the rest of your days as a soldier, staring at the walls, forever defined by the war you have won? Or will you turn your back on the battlefield, walk into the heart of your own city, and begin the quiet, glorious, and endless work of a king at peace?